Yeah.
You know these two stories, basically, and I was really upset about this last week. And this was the story of the Abbotsford, BC girl. Two girls in their high school. They're stabbed. Somebody comes in off the street and stabs them. One survives. The other girl dies. Somebody, while in school, through the glass, I'm guessing, took a video of this girl being murdered. Her murder is right there, and it's for us all to see. And lots of experts were worried that, well, this was going to be used and other people would open it up and be traumatized. It's going to spread the trauma. I mean, most people don't witness this sort of thing. So now all of a sudden, it has the potential to traumatize other people. For me, the bigger issue was, well, of course it's going to traumatize people. But to me, the bigger issue was, what does it come to when our first reaction is not to help somebody, but instead to pick up a device and record what they're doing? And again, I don't know what I expected this person to do. I'm not telling them to be a hero and go and get involved and get hurt as well or killed. But boy, oh boy, whether it's screaming, yelling, whether it's running for help, whether it's pulling a fire alarm, whether it's... I would do anything except pick up a device and start recording this horrific murder. And I spoke out about it last week. So fast forward, there was another story that's been around, and this is just coming to an end now, but we've heard about it for a while. A Playboy Playmate, Danny Mathers, charged over body shaming photo of nude 70-year-old. Basically, she was at a gym. There's a woman getting showered who's like 7 years old, and she takes a picture of this woman and then, of course, throws it on the internet. And, now the backlash ensues. My question to you, Gary, isn't this the same thing? Isn't this people who have lack of respect for others?
I don't know that this is the same thing, Scott. I'm looking at these two incidences through different lenses. The Playmate woman who, took the picture of the 70-year-old. First of all, you're in a shower. You have a sense of privacy that you're not going to have pictures taken of you whatsoever. And here this person is taking this picture and using it only to demean. Maybe some self-aggrandizement. Ha ha! Look at me, but look at her.
Yeah.
That is demeaning of that person. It is so. It's a despicable behavior to put someone down, to shame someone in that manner when they have an expectation of privacy. And so that's quite the invasion of privacy. In the other very tragic event where two students get stabbed and one succumbs to her wounds, I believe, like you, that the student who took the picture likely did so through the glass of a door. There's not the same kind of expectation of privacy, but rather somebody is chronicling what the heck is happening here so that it can be used either in the moment or later. I'm hoping that there's a different attitude towards that. Let's shift a bit and look at some of other circumstances where terrible things are or inappropriate things are posted to the Internet. And by that, I mean instances of bullying, fighting, where really now there's a bystander mentality where the bystanders think this is YouTube worthy, that there's no sense that somebody is getting hurt, and they're not chronicling this to help the victim, but rather to further either shame, embarrass, laugh at, or whatnot. So, first of all, welcome to 2016. These days, we all have to assume that at our worst moments, we're going to be videoed. And unfortunately, so many people are so detached from other people emotionally that we've lost empathy. And so you see that in the Playmate, in her use of the photo, and you see that in that bystander mentality where people aren't running for help, but rather they think this is a great salacious video to put to YouTube.
Why do we find this acceptable? I mean, why would somebody rather react this way than help or do anything but? And why are we accepting this just because technology allows us to do it?
Yeah, well, this is a generation where so many people are disconnected, where we don't feel that sense of community, that sense of caring. We are seeing a rise in people with narcissistic personality disorders over the last 5 and 10 years. So people are really thinking of themselves first and others not so much. So in that context, we lose sight about caring for others. And these videos, the Playmates video, these are symptoms of larger societal problems. I wrote a blog post in May, I think it was, talking about behavior management, but I'm talking about the change of society and why we're having the behavioral problems with the kids that we're having. And that one blog post has had over 1 million hits now, 1 million views, which is extraordinary. And at the end of it, what I really talk about is the concept of a disconnect. That as we're so plugged in, we are at the same time so tuned out. As every parent has given their child a cell phone or a smartphone for safety, we're no longer having communications, we're no longer having conversations, we're no longer having dinner together. When we're in each other's companies, we're doing what we used to call the BlackBerry prayer. We're looking down at our hands.
The BlackBerry prawer.
I love that one.
I love it. No, but I've seen it 1 million times.
Yeah, exactly. So we're looking down at our smart devices and we're tapping away, and we're not listening to each other. We are so disconnected. And in families, there's resentment between parents and children to parents because of that disconnect. When we do connect, typically, the parent thinks the child has done a misdeed and is trying to punish the kid, and then the child says, who are you that you think you can punish me? Because they don't even have an experience of that connection with the parent. So it only breeds resentment these days. The real antidote to all this stuff is to redevelop empathy. You can only do that by reconnecting. Turn the smartphone off, for goodness sakes. Scott, I do a workshop called Raising Awesome Kids. I've done dozens of these workshops throughout Southern Ontario through the Parent Reaching Out grant through local schools. One of the exercises I have parents do is to literally turn off their smartphone. I can't tell you what a tizzy it sends them into. Well, at the same time, they're complaining about their child's anxiety. Turning off the smartphone creates anxiety in them.
Well, it's amazing that we're so quick to jump on millennials. Mm-hmm. There's been a generation gap for a bazillion years. There's always a generation gap between parents and their kids. But for some reason, we're labeling this, and with technology, we've lumped all of these people in together, like the millennials, and millennials. It's like, well, didn't we parent the millennials?
Yeah, but as we're parenting them, we have the smartphones in our hands as well. Yeah. And so we'll call them to the table, and we're just as guilty for doing the BlackBerry prayer as are they. Where is the communication? Where is the transfer of morals and values? Where are the discussions on the news events of the day? They don't exist.
Our generation or an older generation would have said or may have said that we were a generation of collectors, whether it was your record collection or whatever. You would collect things. That's what you would do. You would accumulate stuff. This, apparently, I've heard called, it's a document society. They have to document everything. There's, all along the way, there's a diary of everything that happens.
And it's a narcissistic documentation. I'm not documenting you. I'm documenting me.
Bingo. So how does that make it acceptable? Again, because technology has allowed us to do it.
Yeah, it doesn't make it acceptable whatsoever. And, this shift in technology is a social experiment. We didn't know what genie would be let out of the bottle. We didn't know necessarily the social impact of this change in technology, and we are living it. And so I'm forever helping parents reclaim the relationship with their children by turning off the devices.
Shouldn't the person that posted, and again, we've heard very little about it, but shouldn't the person who posted the video of the murder in Abbotsford somehow be prosecuted for this? I mean, isn't that bullying? I
don't know that is bullying. That is chronicling an event that is happening live. And again, there is less of an expectation of privacy these days in a public event than there is in a private change room. And so there's a remarkable difference between those. And
I can understand that, but what happens as soon as you make that decision to say, well, now, what do I do with this? I've streamed it once. Do I leave it at that? Do I post it? What do I do? And I mean,
kids don't make those decisions.
Yeah.
They're not using judgment. They're not thinking that through whatsoever. I have it. It's unique. I'm going to show it. And they're sharing.
And why are they sharing it? Are they sharing it because it's something that everyone should see, or are they sharing it because people will go, ooh, look what he's got. Look what's on their page.
And so it's not either or. It could be that end. So neither you or I know the motivation of the person who actually posted that video. I'm taking a kinder view of it, thinking they're chronicling the event. Here's what's going on live right now. I got to get this out there. We need help. Look at what's going on. This is what we've been exposed to. Oh my God, I got to tell the world what just happened. I'm scared. And this is a way of sharing and getting support as well.
Mm-hmm.
Having said that, it could have been the more salacious, the more, wow, this is cool, who else got this, coming more from a sense of lack of empathy and self-aggrandizement by being the first to post something as horrific as this. So I don't know the motivation. It can go either way. Wow.
How do you obtain empathy when, as you said earlier, you don't really talk to anybody you can empathize with? You don't really have that sort of face-to-face communication.
Good question. And in fact, I train parents, I train educators. You know, we have to, sometimes we refer to it as emotional intelligence. Rather than superficially addressing behavior, we want to understand for the student, for the person, for the young person, for the adult, what's underneath the behavior, what are they thinking, what are they feeling, because as we key into that, then we may better understand what motivated the behavior. And in understanding the motivation, then we might better treat any issues arising. So the kid who acts out in class, the teacher can say, take your books, get out of here, go to the principal, and never come back. Or the teacher can walk up to the child and kind of quietly and privately say, you know, you just seem out of sorts today. Is there something going on that I should know about? And maybe that's when the student, rather than continuing to be acting out, might say, well, yeah, you know, things are bad in our house. We didn't have money for groceries, or, you know, a parent has a particular problem, or someone isn't getting along well, or maybe there was a loss. As we key into people emotionally, that is how we show empathy. And so now we can deal with the person and what's going on for them rather than superficially addressing their behavior. And this is what we need more of, whether we call it emotional intelligence, empathy, tuning in. This is what we now have to teach parents in order to help manage behavior.
It seems that rather even thinking about how the other person would feel about this, it seems the prize is more exposure for me, more popularity for me, more friends, virtual friends, more hits, more views, more whatever.
That's the narcissistic side of society, the self-aggrandizement. I'm as
and that
good
seems
as
to be
my
the goal.
material gets viewed.
Yeah, and that seems to be the purpose. That's the goal. The goal here is not to necessarily educate, spread information, even, have an occasional chat. It's about, look what I've done. I've got more hits because of this. And they don't even think about what the subject matter is that's generating those fake friends.
Now, let's think about that for a minute. If the goal is more hits, what does it say about this person and the kind of attention they get and how they've now learned to seek attention?
And I think that's what this is about.
Sure. So that comes back to let's show some empathy rather than beating them up for posting nonsense to the Internet seeking more hits. Maybe we can give them attention by saying, I love you, what's going on for you, let's discuss how things are happening at school, tell me about your life, let's go bowling, whatever, but let's connect. Let's help people to feel worthy and of value by virtue of our investment in a relationship with them.
What do you think, whether it's this Playmate that did this or this other person that, and again, we don't know all the details of how it got posted, but it seems that once it's done, they don't realize it was bad.
Yeah, isn't that remarkable? So these are persons who are so into themselves that they lack what we call insight. They seem to have a broken mirror on which to self-reflect.
It seemed to take the fake friends, sort of the backlash of fake friends, for them to realize that they've done something with the fake friends they shouldn't have.
Yeah, there you go. So, again, that's a larger discussion with these people. And, that's the value of restorative justice. In restorative justice, we're working with folks who may not have appreciated the impact of their behavior on others. We're putting them in the same room with their victim and facilitating a dialogue so that the perpetrator of harm has a greater sense of the impact upon the victim, so that hopefully we can create that sense of empathy so that the perpetrator takes more responsibility for their behavior such that they wouldn't engage in hurtful behavior like that again.
Will this pendulum swing back? Will people view how now this person who posted the shower video is being treated, or will even watch the video of the murder and say, you know what, this isn't right? And will the next generation of tech kids have more of a conscience?
That's an excellent question, Scott. I do not know. I do not know. I can only wish that we can restore that sense of empathy and connection. Sometimes whenever you get a new toy, you get so enthralled with the new toy that you use it to the exclusion of all else. And society is getting used to this new toy called a smartphone or, all these social media. And we're still getting used to it. We're still enthralled with it. Hopefully, over the next decade or two, we'll come to appreciate that it's not all that it's cracked up to be, and we'll find wiser ways of using it. And we'll also start to appreciate that we need technology-free times of the day and technology-free zones where we're going to connect one-on-one or amongst the group, that we're really going to have a meal together, that we're really going to chat uninterrupted. So I'm hoping that the next decade or two has us sorting out the fallout from this time in our social or in our electronic age.
Gary Dierenfeld has been with us, social worker, yoursocialworker.com to find out more. Gary, as always, a pleasure. Thanks again for the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Scott. You take care.
You too.